ustedes. Welcome back to Café with Cristina. Here we are in the East Stroudsburg area school district, as you know, with Dr. Riker. ¿Cómo estás?
Bien, ¿y tú?
Bien. I was testing if you spoke Spanish, but you speak too, right? You do. Un poco.
Sí.
Dr. Riker.
Yes.
What are we going to talk about today?
Trauma-informed schools.
Trauma. And is this something new here that we're doing? Or is it something that's implemented in all the schools?
It's, as a district-wide initiative, it's actually new as of last summer. So it's something that Erin brought to us along with Shay and the Pupil Services Department. So we started a training last summer for all administrators and all guidance counselors, where we did a 3-day training on trauma-informed. And now we've created teams within our school buildings, and we're looking to expand that each year to recognize and get our staff and our students and our families aware that trauma is a significant piece of people's lives, and we have to know how to respond appropriately and interact with our students and our staff that have experienced trauma in their lives.
Thank you, Dr. Riker. We don't have 3 days, but we have 10 minutes, right, to get all this training done.
Yes.
So tell us, who is this expert that you brought for us today?
So Erin Dreisbach is our coordinator of social services.
Hola, Erin. How are you?
Hola.
Hola, that's easy, hola, right?
So I believe it's 2 years ago that the district embarked upon adding coordinators of social services to our district staff. We never had that position in our district before.
Social services, you mean? You didn't have that?
We did not. We did not have that as an employable position within our school system. So we hired 2. This year we were expanding additional social services to include 4 additional staff members. So we're really taking a real serious look at trauma and how we can move this forward. So Erin is our brains behind it, I'll say, and really instrumental in moving this forward.
So Erin, this is your first experience in a school, working with the schools?
Correct.
Yes?
Yes.
What was your former training and your former job?
I had worked in child welfare for quite a number of years, and then after that I worked in a behavioral health unit, working with individuals who had trauma, who had mental health, who were just in a bad place, who needed just extra services to get better.
And what motivated you to get into this kind of job?
It started with children, youth. I worked with a lot of families and children who had significant trauma. And what I noticed was a lot of times that trauma would be generational. And so it really interested me. And from there, it kind of expanded, and here I am today.
And what did you find here in the school? What the situation? You come in and they say, here, we have to create a trauma area, right? Service. What did you find? What are the needs in the school? What were the issues that you found?
So when I first started, myself and Shay Jones, we both started together, and she also has a significant trauma education background. And we knew right then and there one of the things that was very important to us was to bring a more trauma-informed type of system into the school. And the reason being is we know that 1 in 7 children have been abused, whether it be sexually, physically, neglect. And we know that in our school, even if we don't always see it, that is there. And so with that, we were able, with the district to create a grant, or write a grant, not really create it, but write it, and being able to look at starting the implementation of a trauma-informed school.
And how do you implement that in a school? How have you done this?
So it is a very complex system, but ultimately what we did was, like Dr. Riker said, we started by really training administration, teachers. We also trained 3 school teachers teachers, staff in the building. And with doing that, we created cohorts for each of our buildings. And so they are now in those buildings and they're able to do a little bit of trainings within the buildings. They're able to do certain things like self-care, staff care, really start to push the importance of trauma, being a trauma-informed school, and, understanding that relationships, for example, are so very important. That our students who have trauma, being able to have a relationship, a safe, stable relationship with someone, an adult, a safe and caring adult, is paramount.
And what is the impact of the children that have trauma in the school performance, in their performance in school?
Everything from significant absenteeism to low grades to not really being able to have attention in the school, because when you have trauma, when you have complex trauma, it really affects your problem solving, your ability to emotional regulate, impulse control. So all of those things are affected, and as we know, in a school setting, that can be very difficult.
So give us an example of how do you implement it, or how do you service the students? Because you say that everybody's trained, right, in different way, has been trained in trauma.
Not everybody has been trained in trauma. So it started out with our administration, some of our teachers, and our school counselors. And so the cohorts have brought a little back to each building, but we want to have at least a full day of training for each one of our staff members to really understand what being trauma-informed means. So we're at the beginning stages. This could be a 5-year plan. This is definitely not overnight, but it is the beginning.
And how long have you been having implemented that?
Since last summer.
Last summer, okay, so there's 1 year, your baby is still, right?
Yes.
Yes.
So what has the impact or been, or what have you seen in this 1 year of implementation?
The one thing that we have noticed is that our student assistance program referrals have gone up. And our student assistance program is, each building has one. And it is a team of administrators, school counselors, teachers, and they get a referral, they come together, and they really discuss how can they best help this student? What services does this student need? And in doing that, they can then contact the family and help make the best decision for that family.
I see. And how you have like kids from kindergarten, right, until high school. Where does the trauma impact more? Are there certain age groups that you can see that?
To be very honest, it affects children from honestly birth to adulthood. It depends on the individual. Everybody handles trauma differently, and every symptom of trauma is different from one individual to the next. So, for example, if you have an elementary student, you may see a ton of outbursts. You may see them replicating their abuse through play a lot of times.
So the teachers are trained to see that.
We are starting to really get them to see it, and that's the part of trauma and being a trauma-informed school, is to really get them to see what trauma is. So what a trauma-informed school is having the community, having administration, having school staff really understand what is trauma, the symptoms of trauma, being able to respond to trauma in an appropriate trauma-informed way, and then making sure that we do not re-traumatize students.
So tell us now, very briefly, what is trauma and how can we detect that and help the kids, the parents, our viewers that are listening to us?
So
we have the expert here, let's take advantage of that.
So, trauma. The easiest way I like to explain trauma is an emotional response to a terrible event. A terrible event could be a war, witnessing domestic violence, a pandemic, abuse. All these things are a terrible event. Now there's also complex trauma, which is where trauma continues multiple times.
And how do parents react to this implementation of trauma in the school system? I mean, are they involved in any way? How are the parents reacting? How can they help? Some parents, if they are involved, are they afraid of you going to the social services?
When individuals hear trauma, immediately,
I can imagine.
Because it is scary. It is scary to talk about. It is scary to think about. It's uncomfortable, So with that being said, one of the things that we really want to work on is our communication with our families and our community. And so as our district continues to progress in being a trauma-informed district, we will start really educating the community, and we will definitely continue to get parents involved. The biggest thing I can say is connection is huge. And so, reaching out to families, or families reaching out to teachers or counselors or the principals, if there are concerns that they see, we're here.
Who can they talk to?
So we talked about the Student Assistance Program. They do have a referral at each building online that you can go to the building's website, click on SAP referral, SAP for short, for Student Assistance Program, and you can, refer that student. A community member can, another student can, a teacher can, anybody can make a referral.
And what about a young student or a younger student that doesn't know or is afraid of their families of knowing or sharing it with their families? How can they get help? Should they talk to the teacher, to anybody, employee? Somebody will get them the help?
Yes.
They can also go on Safe to Say. So Safe to Say
What
is
is Safe
another.
to Say?
So Safe to Say is a program that was implemented across the Commonwealth of Pennsylvania. A little over a year ago, which is an application. It's on our website. You click on it. You can submit any concerns you have about student, an employee, another individual, and it immediately contacts 5 people within the school district, myself being one of them, our school police chief being one of them, our administrative services person. And what we do is we read, it's totally anonymous, so they don't have to say who they are, and they submit that referral, if you will, and we get that, and then we contact the appropriate school personnel, or if it requires police involvement, we would contact the local police. So it's a great program. We have helped many students and families through this Safe to Say application.
Okay, I want to know a story. Can you tell us a story, like a success story, a happy story that Safe to Say has been able to achieve?
Safe to Say success. I think all of those stories have been successful, because what the success is getting that student the support they need, whether it's a friend that they believe is self-harming, is suicidal, who has said things or is acting differently than they used to. It's getting them that immediate assistance, whether it's through a counselor, whether it's through an outside agency that's going to provide support. It's really about that support, connections, relationships, and bringing them together and getting them that help that they need. So I think all of those situations have been successful because we haven't seen repeats of those. So we don't see that continuous pattern of that happening with the same students over and over.
Okay. And now one last thing, because we're almost over our time, but I want to know, how are you handling the trauma system with the pandemic? How is it going to be implemented with this in the fall, with this new school reality?
For our students, our family, we don't know what's going on. We know that there's definitely concern that our community has gone through a significant amount of stress. Our teachers, our administration, everybody just has so much stress, and it takes a toll on our mental health. And so one of the biggest things that we are looking to do at the beginning of this year is making sure our students feel safe, that they feel heard, and that they feel connected.
How are you going to do that?
So we have what's called social emotional learning, and so our teachers are going to be implementing that throughout the first days of school. And really it comes down to, we have no idea what's going to happen, and so we want to make sure that our students feel connected to teachers, to other peers, before who knows, and so that means really discussing what are emotions and how are you honestly feeling right now, and what can you do if you're feeling anxiety or fear about a situation? What are some things that you can do to feel better, to help cope? And that also goes for our staff as well.
And how do you do that? Are you doing it through meetings? How do you do that through Zoom? Are you doing that when the students come here? How are you helping the other employees, the teachers?
So in the beginning of the school year, we will be discussing how important it is for self-care. And we will have discussions with staff, or staff will have discussions with each other on what can they do, because each person's different. So I could love walking, but you may not like walking, and it might stress you out. So it's just really finding what you can do for yourself to help with anxiety and with possible depression or just stress in general.
How are you going to do that with the children?
What we will do is we have a blended program. And so some students will be at home and some students will be in the class, but they will all be connected within that class through a virtual platform. And so the teacher, they will do things like icebreakers or just conversation starters. We have a ton of different social emotional learning lessons that have been provided that they can also utilize and use for the first days of school, so that they can help students feel safe, feel heard, and feel connected.
That's great. Thank you very much. Is there anything else you want to add, Dr. Riker, Erin?
No, I think Erin did a great job of summarizing that, and I think that's a great ending, is that it is about students feeling safe, feeling heard, and being connected. And our schedules that we've created during this pandemic for the start of school year includes time built into the day for those things to occur, because mental health, emotional support is one of our 5 strategic objectives as a school district. And so we are truly emphasizing that and recognizing it and getting others to recognize the importance of that in our community and our schools, our teachers, and our students, to recognize that about each other. So I think Erin did a nice job of summarizing.
Thank you,
that.
both of you. Stay safe, heard, and connected. That's what I like. I
Yes.
like it a lot. So we'll keep that safe, heard, connected. Quieren que sus alumnos se encuentren conectados, se sientan seguros y que se sientan escuchados. Here we have Café with Cristina Luna. We visited the school district of East Stroudsburg and we were talking about trauma. So remember, we have other videos also with Dr. Riker, because we want to help the students get implemented and have a better experience in their school. Muchas gracias a todos. Café con Cristina. Les quiero, les amo y continuamos. Recuerden, suscríbanse a nuestro canal if you want to continue to see our videos. We will have regular videos. Please subscribe to our channel. Be safe, be happy, and stay connected.